having a real dilemma here. There's three things that I think that are could be comparable. I don't understand why Caitlin Clark is receiving a lot of the hate that she has received. Maybe it's because of Pete Maravich and it being an LSU thing. Maybe that's why it's relative to me. Haven't spoke on it. Don't really want to speak on it. Don't really care, to be honest with you. I think it's a great accomplishment, though, for Caitlin Clark. I just don't get sometimes like some of the arguments that we have. I do understand them. They're sports related. I'm glad that they happen. But Caitlin Clark broke the all-time record, if you miss it this weekend, of points scored in college basketball. Good for her, man. I mean, look, it's not easy to do and break the record that she did, even though Pete Maravich didn't have a three-point line, even though the game's different, man versus man competition versus women. I mean, she still is a woman going against equal competition to her. But I do believe that there are a lot of comparisons and nobody's going to agree. What I will say in all of this is that, glad for, happy for, I mean, her and Angel, quite honestly, have changed the game of basketball, women's basketball, for the better, at least in my opinion. With all of that being said, I'm glad that they were able to do it and help the sport grow. The only place and stance that I sit on all of this is that Pete Maravich will probably be, and arguably should be, the best, the greatest, probably is the greatest college basketball player of all time for everything that he accomplished. Not to take anything away from Caitlin Clark, but I see on national TV that people are like, well, she's not great. Yeah, that's a little bit of a stretch. Oh, well, she's a great offensive player. Yeah, she broke an all-time record that's set in basketball that you could not break yourself. National basketball pundits talking about it. Look, bottom line is that there's a reason that college basketball has declined in the regular season, picks up in March, obviously, but why this month it picks up, why a lot of people talk about it, it is what it is. Congrats to her. Doesn't affect me. Still think the way that Pete did it was better than the way she did. Now, there are three things that it could be comparable to. ULL dusting their crawfish. I put that in the same kind of category of just things like, why do you do what you do? Why do you talk about what you talk about? And maybe Johnny Manziel being a spokesperson for Reggie Bush and the Heisman Trophy. I just think that sports are so funny sometimes, and why Johnny Football would be the one to be the advocate for Reggie Bush when he's out here talking about all the rules that he broke, all the cocaine that he snorted, and all the crazy things that he did and broke NCAA recruiting or NCAA rules over and over and over again, and probably Texas A&M rules. It's cool to admit it. You were a bad boy. You had a great time in college. You were a frat bro that was really good and could play quarterback. Doesn't change how good you were. Just don't know if he should be the spokesman. Nevertheless, we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports. I hope all of you are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Carter Bryant joins us at 7:30. Spring football. We will be out there on Thursday, early too. Got to be there at 7:55 in the morning. So practice will be early on Thursday morning, which we will be out there too. We'll talk to Carter about that. Some things going on around college football. New 2-minute warning. We got a new, just how do I even want to say this? Microphones and radios and helmets. How does that change the game of football? We will talk and discuss that. Also, LSU baseball weekend recap, or week recap, really. Look, I was elated, how do I want to say this? I was excited I would have been excited. Let me say it like this. I would have been excited if LSU this past week, first time on the road, being in Houston, I would have been excited of the 4 games that they played if they would have gone 3-1. Going 3-1 in that stretch would have been like, hey, man, really good week. The simple fact that LSU went on the road and went undefeated, beating Rice, beating Texas, the USL Raging Cajuns, and then Texas State puts a bow on what this team could be potentially going into. Look now, I know that we're still in March. Okay, I know that it's still early in the process of all this. LSU ramps up this week their road series and going to southeastern Louisiana, where I live in Hammond, Louisiana. Let's see what happens there. I think they're going to win, but regardless, I'm elated though that they went 4-0. I am pumped up. I think we got so many things that we need to talk about. Holman, Jump, Hurd, what you're doing with the order, guys that are showing up and showing out, and we got to have a serious conversation about Bear Jones. Bottom line, we have to have a very serious conversation about the Bear, because quite honestly, he's made some defensive plays at least over the last 10 days where he's looked really good as well. So lots to talk about, and we will break down that week. Also, what we got to get into, we can't talk about, which I probably will talk about with this Jalen Cook thing. Jalen Cook is suspended per Matt McMahon. We'll touch on that. And to wrap the show up, something that we don't ever do, and I'm breaking the rule here tonight, is simply I will be talking about Jason Kelce and the speech that he had today in his retirement speech. No better given retirement speech than the one that Jason Kelce gave today. So I'll break one of our rules. We'll talk a little bit of NFL here tonight as well. And I can't believe it's not even the Saints, even though I think that they secretly want to move up, but who knows? Jared Addison, what's going on, Jared? He says Caitlin Clark still has the record for looking the most like a chick from Shallow How. Bart Smokey, our good friend, says Pete is simply the best that he is. Can I tell you one thing that bugs the ever-living tar out of me? People in this whole Caitlin Clark, Pete Maravich rivalry, or not rivalry, and people comparing this record-breaking thing from Caitlin Clark and Pete Maravich. I think it is so funny that there are some people out there like, well, she couldn't do that in the men's sport. She's a woman. And the only one rule that I will break in talking anything political is men and women's sports. I've never, not once, talked about politics on the show. I will break my one rule if it came down to it. Nevertheless, she's a woman. Yeah, she's going. I mean, what do you? She couldn't do what Pete Maravich did against men. No, duh. She's a chick. She wears a ponytail. Like, I mean, what are we discussing here? Anyway, I always think that is funny. Carlton Landry says Manziel was a beast in college. A freaking beast. I just don't think that he needs to be the spokesperson for Reggie Bush, because look, you got Johnny Manziel on this media tirade, all right, in reference to him saying a lot of craziness about rules and things that he did. Like, hey man, I'd go party. I got the Dom Perignon and some crack. Not crack. He said I had some cocaine. You know, I lost all the weight because I'm on the cocaine. Like, dude, come on, dude. Like, I mean, you better be glad that the Heisman Trophy is still allowing you to be there. I mean, come on, man. I mean, like, Johnny Football was a beast, no doubt. Let's not act like some of the things he's saying isn't ridiculous. It is ridiculous, guys. It is ridiculous. I was on that cocaine. Yeah, it's a cool story. It's a fun story. It's a bro story. But when we get down to it and get down to business, like actual business, I mean, I was on that Magic Dragon. I smoked so much weed. Okay. I mean, like maybe I'm getting too old. Maybe I'm getting the get off my lawn segments. Come on, bro. Come on. But it doesn't change the fact and the rule or the point that just because I say all that doesn't make two things aren't true at once, specifically with this. And talking about that Reggie Bush needs to get his Heisman Trophy back. I vehemently agree with this. Paul Sub says, breaking news out of Austin, an Amber Alert has been put out for Texas pitching. Yeah, he ain't wrong. Yeah, y'all going to have to go watch Rufino and Joe show. Clyde says, I'm still hung up on USC and the Brokeback Mountain, Blake. Yeah, I mean, the way that Joe put all of that together, man, I thought that the coaches were bumping uglies. And I'm like, what are you hearing coming out of USC? You know what I mean? Like, are they doing something that they're not supposed to be doing? Gross. Yuck. All right. Let's get rolling. Want to give a big shout out. We did this this morning on our episode, our morning show, which all of you need to be there. All of you need to be start getting into our SEC show. Want to thank our good and friends and new partners over at JJ Exterminating. They're going to be with us. Excited for our friends Paul and Deborah and everybody that we talked to. They were fantastic in this entire process. So want to thank everybody over at JJ Exterminating for being a part of the AYS team. Listen, man, we got to do it at our house. It's not a joke. You need to stay up to it. Pest, termites, all of it. Don't let your house be infested by small, crawling little creatures. Now, it's funny I say that because I have a little 1-year-old, precious little girl in Jewel, but that's why they, I mean, look, don't let your house get there. Call J&J Exterminating and let them know that Blake sent you on by. Let's take a quick break. Let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag, Tyler Alexander over at LPT Realty, and J&J Exterminating. Do us a favor during the break. Hit the like and share to all those groups, share to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and notification bell wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Baseball dominating. Is Jay Johnson building a massive dynasty at LSU? We talk about it all next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
We're back. All right. Let's get this thing rolling, y'all. LSU this past week in Houston had a massive week. So I told you earlier, I probably would have just been very excited if LSU would have gone into this past week, going into Houston, playing Rice, Texas, ULL, Texas State, if they would have come out of it 3-1. Now, you knew, I knew, your mama knew, everybody knew that they had the potential to go 4-0 in this stretch in the Houston Classic. But what we learned coming out of this weekend, I think, is the biggest thing of the early season, clearly. Because on Friday night against Texas, who I still think is a really good team, even though they blew a lead against Vanderbilt, didn't look good against, I think it was Texas State the first game, or maybe they played Texas State. I forget who they also played, but I knew, remember they gave up the big 8-run inning or 5 or 7-run inning against Vandy to blow that lead. Bottom line is this team and what we even started to see on Wednesday. So we talked about the game Wednesday against Rice, how Brady Neal came out, looked really good. Kate Anderson absolutely dominated the young freshman on the road. Second start, kind of a little like, hey, man, early season, does he get a jitters on the road? How does that work out? And he looked good. The team at the plate looked good. And then you go into Friday, which, guys, I got to admit, we talked about this over the last 2 weeks, and it was very apparent early that this was going to have to happen. Luke Holman might be one of the best pitchers in the country, and him being on this stage and platform. Now, he was at Alabama, and it's not as if that Alabama wouldn't get the platform it maybe would have deserved in college baseball, but LSU is a different beast and a different animal. You know what's interesting? If I put Paul Skeens' stats for the first 3 starts of his LSU career versus Luke Holman, and I just put a blind test up, guys, they got about the same number of innings, around the same number of strikeouts, around the same number of walks. The only difference is that Skeens gave up 1 more run and Luke Holman hasn't. Now, the level of competition, early season, did a guy, things are completely different. But the storyline coming out of LSU right now, yes, they're doing a lot of things at the plate. We got to talk about Bear Jones. It has to be Luke Holman. The dominance that he had. Like, I look at Friday night, anything you could do, I can do better in the first couple of innings with Johnson and Holman going at it. But the first inning, he strikes out the side, and that's how LSU gets all 3 of their outs. Does have runners on, but it doesn't matter. Holman comes into the second. Boom, boom, boom. He gets 1, 2, 3 in a K, gets a K in there as well. He goes into the third. He gets another 2 strikeouts. He gets a bloop single, which in the left field, which really was the only couple of hits that he gave up, was 2 bloops in the left field. So the only thing that he gave up remotely that was even worth anything was guys getting jammed and blooping it to the opposite field, the lefty, just basically getting fisted and pushing the ball the other way. That's all that Luke Holman happened. Same thing happened to Gage Jump that we'll talk about too against ULL. But he goes into the fourth, 1, 2, 3, getting multiple Ks, 2 Ks in that inning as well. You go into the bottom of the fifth, he does the same exact thing, getting 2 strikeouts against Texas until he was pulled in the 7th for Ackenhausen. But you go, or in the 6th, where he's pulled for Ackenhausen after he gets his 12th strikeout. Guys, 5 2/3, what probably should have been 6 strong innings of work. Luke Holman dominated. And he's dominated all year. The fact that you have this level and caliber of guy on Friday night, which we have and you have been saying as well, is going to be your ace. It gets you – honestly, this weekend, again, I get that it's early, and I might be overreacting. Was Jay honest in the dynasty that he's building here? Because, guys, at what point do you start saying, now, you got a long way to go. Let's see how SEC plays out. I'm starting to ask the question because, guys, they're dominating. Luke Holman's dominating everybody. Like, that's a Texas team. This isn't like, by the way, it's going to be a team that's going to be in your conference next year. And they went out there and dominated Vandy pitching. It's not like they couldn't hit. It's not like they didn't have success. They dominated another SEC team's pitching. Man, this team is really good. You're going even into Saturday. So me and my wife go out to eat. Game comes on. We are leaving when the game comes on. We go to the bowling alley. That's what they wanted to do. The game is on the TV in there. We're sitting there watching it. Okay. Had to get him to put it on YouTube. And I got to tell you, man, Gage Jump had the same type of performance for me. The only hit giving up another little bloop in the infield that Braswell can't get to, which, by the way, chill out on Braswell. I think it's funny. How do I want to say this? It's very funny to me that the two people that have gotten the most criticism in baseball and in football, really, I don't want to say Braswell's like Thompson because Thompson got it a lot. But it's interesting to me who people get mad at. Jaden Daniels, 2022, Jordan Thompson, 2023. Now it's Braswell. Like it's always so interesting to me, like what people are constantly bitching about. But Gage Jump on Saturday, man, was as electric as you're going to get. And by the way, he's only going to get better, in my opinion. Gage Jumps, and I get that it's ULL. Gage Jump's performance gets you to a place where you have to ask the question, is there another or a better potential 1-2 punch on Friday and Saturday than them? Then you throw in potentially a Cade Anderson, a Thatcher Hurd. How does that play itself out? Now you're to a place where, guys, you might, by the way, Javen Coleman gave you silent innings last night. This staff, this pitching staff is ridiculously talented. I know that Nate Ackenhausen, gave up a home run. Nate Ackenhausen comes into the 7th. He gives up a home run, strikes out the next 3. He comes into the 8th, strikes out the first 2, gets a ground ball to Braswell, which he made a great play on. He goes into the 9th. He has a little bit of issues, okay? I mean, I guess you could just say it is what it is. You always got to come in and close it. But bottom freaking line, from top to bottom, this is clearly and easily the best staff that Jay Johnson's had here. And what's nuts about this, what's wild about this, is Skeens and Floyd were first-round dudes. I think it's obviously because of just how good these two guys have looked in the beginning. Like Ty Floyd didn't look like this in the beginning of the year. Hell, he didn't look like this during the SEC. I mean, it wasn't until later in the season that he had times where he was dominating. Pitching can get you and is going to get you a long way. Now, to the side of being at the plate, I think that you and I need to have a very serious conversation about Bear Jones and where this is going for him. You know, the beginning part, which is probably the thing that we should have given him, or at least, and I will admit where I'm wrong, maybe should have given him more time defensively. Guys, he's demolishing baseballs. And when you are a guy like Bear Jones, who's picking it up defensively, hitting the ball a ton, the strikeouts and the stuff that he does not bother me. Because, guys, he is going to hit probably 20, 25 home runs this year. He's going to drive in a shitload of runs, and he's going to continue to dominate while probably hitting around 3 to 320 at the high end. Maybe if he stays hot, he can be in that 340 range. He has been one of the best at the plate. Now, he has some bad moments, and so does everybody else. And guys, you hit 3 hits out of 10 at bats, you're considered an all-star. Oh, shit, you're considered a Hall of Famer. The bottom line is, I think that he's seeing the ball well. Even the home run that he had on Friday night and hitting an Oppo Taco, that's how you know a guy's seeing the ball well. When a strong, powerful hitter like him takes a fastball on the outside half, he puts a beautiful swing on it, he takes it to the opposite side and hits a bomb off of it. It opens him up, too, on how teams might want to play him as well, which could be a massive, massive thing. Look, I think Travinsky, just doesn't have the home run totals maybe that he would want in the beginning of the year. So what? I mean, he drives in 2 runs the other night, okay? Braswell brings in a couple. I know he's hitting below 300. But look, man, you're getting a lot of clutch hitting and a lot of really good hitting. I like Paxton Kling in the 1 hole. I do want him to possibly get a little bit better on taking a little bit better swings, because like I think he struck out 3 times this weekend, 2 that we tracked. That of the 2 strikeouts he had, he swung at all 3 pitches, all of them outside of the strike zone. Like, hey man, I know that you want to do things. I know hitting the ball and getting hits and it propels you, but man, if they're gonna put you on first, the speed that you have on first, you gotta just take it. And look, man, that's a lot what Dylan Cruz did. Dylan did not get pitched a lot to last year, hardly at all. But the way that I look at this is, I think that you are very complete. I don't think that, like last year you had Skeens, and where Skeens like, hey man, Friday night, it's almost a given sometimes that you're going to probably win. And what you do at the plate, you don't have to be as stressed because you have 20 on the mound that will get you through these things. Now, I just think you're so complete. I don't know, and we're obviously seeing it's going to be a long year. The question that I pose in all of this is, are you more of a complete team than you were a year ago? And if you are, that team that you saw last year, one of arguably the best team in the last 20 years, is this LSU baseball team. Just how good can you be? All right. One last thing before we get to Carter, the Power Bryant. This weekend, I could make the argument that this weekend was a lot like what you would see in a regional. Like, basically, you just sweat the regional weekend. Texas, ULL, who, by the way, I have been looking forward to playing them again. I have taken and seen too much shit from the Rudy Poos at ULL. I'm glad that we put little brother in their place. I wish this could be a bigger rivalry than it is. It won't be. You're too little, but it is what it is. Glad that we got that win. But you basically in March, you had a regional weekend where you swept it, and you look good doing it. You look really good doing it. All right. Make sure we don't have any super chats before we get to Carter, the Power Bryant. We do. C. Hardy says, Milam is a beast. How can you take him off the field? You can't. And I appreciate the super chat, C. Hardy. He says, I had my doubts, but he hits for contact every single time. Thank you so much, buddy, for the super chat. I agree with you. And defensively, he's special too. Like he's really good defensively. So you love that. You love to see that with him. Yeah, he's gonna be a good one, man. He's gonna be a good one. Has had more success from the left-handed side, but on Saturday night he got a big hit from the right side. I just don't think he's had enough at bats for us to really judge him there. But he's really good, and he's going to be really good. And and the crazy thing about that too, C. Hardy, he's another guy in all of this that's just going to get and be better. Like, look, again, I can say this is March 1,000 times. I want to go maybe another 2-3 weeks, maybe even the first 2 weekends in the SEC play. I don't know if you don't need it, like your expectations are Omaha or bust this early in the year. Like I really don't. We'll see. All right, let's get to Carter, the Power Bryant. We talked to Power Hour NFL. That's his name. Then he has listed. Maybe he wants to change it. Who knows? But Power Hour LSU, Power Hour Carter Bryant joins us next. Stay with us. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com.
Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
You got a new setup here, buddy? What's going on?
Yeah, I had to get a little darker in here, man. It's life is grand, Blake. I'm happy for LSU baseball.
Did you change your whole studio?
Yeah, just revamping everything, man. You got to keep.
All right, I'm going to send you a picture after the show because we're about to do something. We're literally in the process of finishing stuff in here next week.
Okay, good. I for those that don't know,
minds think alike.
I've been to your house and I saw. You building something, so it's good to see all this come to fruition. Your life's been busy. You've been a dad times 2 now, and then AYS is going to the next level. Let's go.
Is that the Burrow Ole Miss picture in the back?
Yeah. So my good buddy Jamar Simeon, the great artist, made this for me, and I don't know. I'm thinking about moving this around too. So yeah, just mixing things up and getting some backlighting here. And yeah, it's crazy, Blake. I launched an NFL project and I just did it just because I got bored. I released a few videos on the Super Bowl and they went crazy viral, and I can't make money on them because I don't have 1,000 subscribers. Like
that's how they get you. That's how they get you.
It pisses. It's the amount of money I've lost just because I released some videos that went off just because I don't have 1,000 subs. And look, I owe YouTube my life, but still, it just pisses me off. But I didn't switch my profile from the NFL to the LSU one. But we're here. Let's go.
Carter, technically, spring football starts tomorrow, but we won't be able to be out there until Thursday.
Yeah.
I look at this as a couple of different ways and a couple of different things. We're here now, okay? Like there's a lot of things that we got to figure out. Now, I've asked you all the kinds of questions in and out of Sunday on which we should look forward to this. But I look at LSU football and ask one massive question now that we're here. Can you take that next step? Because now, look, we can speculate, Carter, on what position groups, this player, that player, which we've been doing all off season. Okay.
Yeah.
Carter, they got to make the playoff. It's time.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other way around it. You have the best offensive line arguably ever at LSU. And when you have an offensive line as good as LSU's will be next season with Pro Football Focus's best offensive tackle and 9th best offensive tackle, there's no excuse for you to not make the playoff next year. But as you've astutely pointed out on AYS and you know, I've pointed out on my channel as well, you're going to need some things to go your way, right? Obviously, you need injury luck, you need all that other stuff, but you're going to need a lot of guys, Blake, that came from last year's team. They returned to this year's team, but those players weren't really that good, right? Those guys are going to have to take the next step.
Especially defensively, which is mainly what you're talking about.
Right. And what you're going to hope for as an LSU fan, that Blake Baker can do what he did with Damon Clark, right? And that's one, you know, big piece of optimism, Blake, that I've had this entire offseason since Blake Baker's been hired, is Blake has a proven track record of taking guys that weren't really good, but making them NFL level players like he did with Damon Clark his only season at LSU. If he's able to do that with one or two of these defensive players, LSU will be in a lot better shape next year.
Does the new ruling on the radio and helmets, I think that they might do the middle linebacker or one linebacker and one safety. Right. Okay. Does this make Blake Baker's job a little bit easier in enhancing and making this defense better quicker than maybe that we thought because he can communicate with them?
Yeah, and I think it's going to make everybody's life easier. I still think, Blake, you're going to see people doing the YMCA signaling, holding up the signs with like a Beavis and Butthead cartoon or something like that on it. I still think you're going to see some of that, Blake.
Well, especially at Tennessee, Ole Miss, and other places for sure.
Yeah, and I keep going back to this with Baker, right? There's so many of these Missouri guys that didn't really have a whole lot of NFL draft hype before the season. And I count 3 that are legitimate players in this NFL draft that you would have never thunk before last year that they would be in that spot, right?
Did you just say thunk?
Yeah, thunk's a word. You never use thunk? Is thunk a word? I don't know.
This is the most Arkansas podcast I've ever had. Continue.
No, thunk is a word. Have you?
THUNK is not a word.
Yes, thunk is a word. Somebody, please pull out the dictionary and let me know if thunk is a word. But truth be told, I'm very bullish on Blake Baker. I'm very bullish on this defensive staff getting these group of Tigers ready to go. And I go back to when I got to interview some of the recruits a few weeks ago. It is amazing how excited they are to have their opportunity to play right away, especially the early enrollees that will be there.
Yeah, I agree with you. The interesting thing for me, though, is how much does it help communication, which I do think that LSU lacked a lot of last year defensively. But the bottom line becomes, Carter, you're about to really find out, like really, really find out with LSU defensively if this is personnel or coaching. Because now you have coaches that that can call plays and do things. Carter, if they don't take a step up, I'm going to say it's a personnel issue. Like this is the only time that you have to step up. I don't know if I put anything really on Blake Baker, but we'll see. Carter, we talked about this last week about schematically. Have you given more time to Brian Kelly and releasing some of these things? Now, Brian Kelly met with Wilson, last week. I don't know how much we got into and discussed it. What did you make of some of the things that he did say?
Yeah, so obviously Harold Perkins is a big story. And look, last year it was an up and down season for Harold Perkins. And I think the limbo that the LSU defense was in every week, figuring out what his best role is, hurt them. I do think that not only hurt them, but it also hurt the play calling of Matt House because they were trying to figure out which role worked out best for Harold Perkins. This is what I would say as far as Harold Perkins being an inside linebacker off ball. They tried it for one game, for a full game, and that game, Blake, was against Florida State, okay? Florida State is one of the toughest games you can play as an inside linebacker because you're going up against a counter scheme. And the way that they marry play action and all the different counter things that they do in their offense, that is a really tall task in your first game as an inside off-ball linebacker to be ready for. And Harold Perkins, of course, did not have a good game. He had a bad game. And I don't think that game should be the label that Harold Perkins can't play this off-ball inside linebacker position because it was such a brutal matchup versus a Florida State team that Blake turned out to be one of the best teams in college football. So obviously that's, the big takeaway from that Wilson Alexander interview. And I think Harold Perkins can still play inside off-ball linebacker, but it's going to be a transition. And as you know, Blake being a former lineman, the defensive line for Harold Perkins is going to have to be really good in front of him for him to have success in that role as well.
I'm going to push back a little bit on the D-line thing. Yes, they do. But I think what people are thinking about him being a quote unquote inside linebacker or off ball linebacker is not necessarily what they think it is. Let me explain.
Okay.
I think we go out there Thursday. Maybe I'm wrong. And look, this is just opinion. I think we go out there Thursday and they're running some form of odd man, 3-man front.
Okay.
And I think they're going to might incorporate some 3-3-5 stuff, which does not necessarily make him a traditional in that system, a traditional inside backer. I think it'd be him and Weeks, and he'd be the third outside rover type in most situations.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And that style,
which is the most free flowing position in that entire defense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would fit him better, right? There was
it would.
There's actually Jim Knowles, actually a lecture he gave on this type of defense actually got leaked today on how that defense is actually supposed to be run. And that is a fly around and just cause havoc kind of defense. And that would actually fit what Errol Perkins does best, which is fly around and obviously make plays.
Well, and Brian Kelly has hired that before with Marcus Freeman.
Yeah. And look, this is the one thing I like about Blake Baker, and it goes along with
he's going to be multiple.
Yeah. Blake Baker is a guy who is a believer that he doesn't have all the answers, right? What I hate in coaching circles, and I'm lucky to know some coaches through, the film studies and stuff that we've done. The coaches I find to be the most successful are the ones that know that they don't have all the answers. They're the ones that aren't hardened in their ways, right? Football is a flexible game. Your personnel is never the same. And the coaches who are able to mold their personnel to the best scheme that works for that group of players are the ones that are very successful, right? The way Saban ran his 2011 defense is different than how the 2016 defense looked, which is different than how he was able to stop Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Which, by the way, did you see that film breakdown from God dog it? We had him on our show. Forgive me. But how they incorporated 3-3-5 stack into that Georgia game?
No, I haven't seen it. Send it to me.
It's insane. They threw shit at Georgia that I don't think Kirby was even remotely thinking that Nick would ever do.
Yeah, and a little side note here, that Alabama team I'm still amazed that Nick Saban got that Alabama team to the playoff.
I'm not. Can I tell you why? I think they were better on defense than anybody gives them credit for. I can make the argument. I think I can make the argument they were probably a top 2 defense.
Who was number 1?
Michigan.
Would you say Michigan? Okay.
Yeah, because they're more explosive on the D line. But think about if Alabama this past year would have had the offensive productivity that Michigan had. They would have kicked everybody's ass and some. I think that they are just more loaded than people gave them credit for.
And that's why I think what Nick did was very impressive, because that was his worst offense.
By far.
It was such a brutal offense to watch. But it is interesting, Blake. You brought up the spring. Garrett Nussmeier, top 3 Heisman odds.
We were getting to that next.
Right.
Let's get into it. Where do you see him? Well, let me ask you like this. What do you think what do we need to see from Garrett Nussmeier this spring with all of the stuff coming out with him now, and then what we actually need to see?
Yeah, obviously him and Kyron Lacey have chemistry. So a lot of reps with CJ Daniels, a lot of reps with Xavier Thomas, both of which more than likely will be in the mix. As far as Chris Hilton is concerned, it's probably who Garrett Nussmeier is thrown to more than anyone on the team, because, they've always been second unit type of players. So that's obviously going to be really interesting. And then the next step, Blake, is going to be the tight end position, right? Is someone else outside of Mason Taylor going to step up? And, Kamarion Pimpton is definitely one of those guys that has so much hype surrounding him. There's so many different receivers who we've not seen do anything but have top 100 4-star ratings, that have a lot of hype, that have a ridiculous high school highlight reel of amazing catches. So, I think we know Garrett can fling it. We know his release is great. We know mechanically he's really, really, really good. Makes sense. His dad is a quarterback coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. But, I'm going to be very interested to see who's catching the passes after Kyron Lacey and Chris Hilton.
What were your thoughts about Brian Kelly telling Wilson Alexander that for the run game, we're going to go to some more pro-style stuff? I
love it. And Blake, I think what we're going to see on all levels of football, and, this past year in the NFL, we saw more shotgun than we've ever seen before. Mm-hmm. The teams that go under center, I think, are going to feast. Okay. If I was a modern day OC, I would have a lot of stuff under center. I just would, right? Because defensive lines have gotten lighter, right? Teams that are able to run the football and play smash mouth and marry play action with it. I just think that's going to be such a big advantage because teams are building for more modern spread attacks. And I think teams that are able to run the football, play some 12 personnel as well, are the ones that will have a lot of success. And LSU, even though their running back room is thin, they've got the backs to play that style. So I am very excited to see that. And also, Blake, I think Brian Kelly himself would love to see that, right? This is a guy who, one kind of minor storyline as far as the NFL is concerned, Brian Kelly's former back was the biggest story as far as running backs are concerned in the NFL, Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams was one of the best backs in the entire National Football League, and
took the Rams by one of the Rams by storm, like was a fantasy darling.
Yeah, like Kyron Williams is getting drafted in the first round already for drafts going into next year,
right?
And I think one thing that probably made Brian Kelly a little uncomfortable towards the end of last season, and this is something that you and I discussed privately, is
he can't just line up and run it,
right? And, as great as Jaden Daniels from Elite Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. was last year, one kind of side story was actual handoffs to running backs for LSU weren't profitable like they were earlier in the season versus Ole Miss and Missouri.
Yeah, down the stretch, running the football with our backs was a massive issue that we did not discuss, mainly due to the fact because Jaden Daniels was going off on everybody. Like, Carter, here's the truth. Everybody says we abandoned the run against Bama. That's not true. Can I tell you the truth? This is a little worry that I do have with this O-line. They got pushed around. Or they didn't get pushed around. They got stalemated, which is a completely different thing, which means your backs have to be better.
Yeah. And another thing, Blake, is there were a lot of times where the defense was just sitting in the hole waiting for it. So it's not just that. You are true. That did show up. We weren't able to move people. But other teams were able to key our runs, right? You brought up the Georgia and Alabama game a minute ago. One thing Alabama did a good job of was keying Georgia's runs. They were able to figure something out, whether it's film or preparation or whatever. Our run game was not only something that we weren't able to get going. We didn't need it because Jaden Daniels is a transcendent all-time great player, but you're going to need it because we're not going to have Jaden Daniels next season. We're not going to have his running ability be our running game next season. So we have to do a better job of mixing different looks to help that offensive line out to where the defense isn't just sitting there waiting for our running backs to run into their arms.
You know what's interesting too, Carter, he said we're going to run tosses. We're going to run play action out of center, do bootleg stuff.
Let's go.
Well, I got to tell you, here's what people don't understand, and this is why Georgia has a lot of success on offense. It's why, LSU fans get this massive concern when we go under center because of the simple fact of what Les did. You can be highly productive going from under center, highly productive, even in college football. The bootleg stuff I think is interesting because you have tight ends you can get involved here, big time wide receiver play that you can get involved here. I do think that is something. One thing that I do want to get or talk to you about, because we'll obviously talk on Monday next week in reference to spring and what we saw so far. Carter, I got to be honest. I'm a little worried about this 2-minute warning thing because, and let me tell you why. Because it's not about the 2-minute warning, but you did a running clock. You gave me a 2-minute warning. By the way, if you don't know this, the 2-minute warning's coming to college football. They just throw it in there. Nobody knew it was coming. And Carter, I fear for the sport that we cover so much on a day in, day out basis because we're just becoming the NFL light. Then you got Trent Dilfer out there saying what he's saying about, hey guys, you're going to be a 64 team mega conference and it's over. Like it's over.
Yeah.
Carter, are we in trouble?
Yeah, you're in a lot of trouble. Blake, I've always been a big NFL fan. It's part of why I've shifted some of my focus to the NFL because I'm just kind of fed up with college, and it's not NIL, it's not portal, and there's a piece of me that's open to change. But Blake, the 14-team playoff is a slap in the face to every single college football fan. It really is,
And Carter, we haven't even had a 12-team playoff.
Yes, and the fun and here's the funny thing about it. As much as you and I hate the 14-team playoff, that's good for LSU. A 14-team playoff benefits LSU, right? Because
100%. Because we would have been in there this year.
Exactly, and as far as the SEC hierarchy is concerned,
you 1,000% sure that you don't beat Penn State? That's what I talked about last week. Are we 1,000% sure you don't beat Penn State?
Yeah,
you're beating Penn State. I'm sorry. You got to go to Happy Valley. They're not scoring enough points to keep up with you. I'm sorry. They're just not.
And Drew Aller sucks. Ole Miss tore him up. The 14-team playoff sucks. It just does, right? And, Blake, I've always felt this way when it comes to entertainment. Scarcity is better, right? The fewer, the better. The fewer the amount of teams in the playoff, the better. Right now, 2 with the BCS was too few. 4, I also think was too few. 6, I think was actually the perfect number. And to a certain degree, I was fine with 12. I can live with 12. But 14, they're slapping you in the face. Whoever you are watching this right now, you might like the 14-team playoff. And let me tell you what, I would have loved nothing more than Jaden Daniels being in the college football playoff. The college football executives they probably saw this as a few weeks ago. They're like, you know what? It would be nice if the Heisman Trophy winner was in the playoff, which he would have been in a 14-team format. But the truth is, the games that you go to on a week-to-week basis are your playoff games, right? Part of what made the Brian Kelly Alabama win in Tiger Stadium a few years ago so great is we knocked Alabama out of the playoff, right? There's something to be said about scarcity, right? And 14 is just too many, and they're just going to keep adding and adding and adding on. And playoffs are so overrated. It's the most overrated thing we have in sports, are the playoffs, in any sport, honestly. And college football has never been about national championships. It's been about the week to week, the games on campus. The fact that a few years ago, a random night in Columbia, South Carolina, where Tennessee choked and allowed Spencer Rattler to go for 60 points, cost them the playoff, right? There is something beautiful that in rural America, that a multi-billion-dollar sport like college football is decided on campuses, and now they're just going to take that away, and it sucks.
It's a very great way to articulate it. I think, can I be honest with you? I'm not saying this because you're arguing my best friend, but here's the truth. I don't think that anybody's articulated better than that. Like, I think, Carter, we've probably done 100 shows together. All right? Maybe 200. Okay? Every Monday for shit. God knows how long. I've never heard somebody put it like that. It's sad and the truth. But here's the thing for me that I think is the biggest issue. The biggest issue for me is there's not 14, Carter, there's not 12 teams that can at any given year. It's not like the NFL because that you got the draft, you got a better part of free agency. The worst teams get the best players every year that coming into the league. Recruiting's not going to change. Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, they're going to be the top dudes.
It's just the truth. I hate to say it. And look, I'm not the biggest person who will hammer this point home. Josh Pate is a believer in this. There's a lot of more powerful people that are believers in this. But when I tell you, I've seen playoffs just ruin sports. Right, we've seen it in the NBA where it's just become all about the playoffs. MLB, it's all about the playoffs, which a playoff in the MLB is a worse weighted side.
Can I be honest? So is the NFL.
Right. And
the regular season is, hey, let's monitor to make sure that we're good enough throughout the year to win the division and make the playoff. Now, you have some high intense games in there. Nobody's arguing that. But Carter, Alabama losing to LSU means, can I just be real, for the ultimate goal means nothing.
Nothing. It's nothing. And that's what sucks. Like, and there's a lot of people that watch your show, Blake, that actually go to the games. They spend their season tickets, right? You're losing some of the value of your tickets, right? That's just the truth.
But they'll say, oh, well, you could get a home playoff game at home.
Who gives a shit? I would love to have a home playoff game in Tiger Stadium. That's great. But that doesn't get me any more excited than early November when Alabama comes. I mean, it's just a tradition, right? And it sucks. It really, really, really sucks. We've seen the NFL expand their playoff. Sucks, right? The 7 seeds are just garbage, right? This was the first time a 7 seed beat a 2 seed, Green Bay, and it was because the Cowboys choke every year. I mean, we all saw that coming a mile away. But
it's not because you don't think Jordan Love's not any good.
Actually, I do think Jordan Love is.
Yeah, I was about to say Jordan Love, baby. I mean, Green Bay, stand up, baby. But Carter, think about it like this: Liberty would have played Georgia this year. And by the way, in Athens.
Oh God! Kirby would have ran that bitch up.
Kirby, here's the truth. You know what we kind of need is the guy that's in high school who might play sports and gets a little too cocky for his britches, but like he just needs his ass whooped to bring him down a peg or two. Yeah. Wait and see if they want to do this 14-team playoff this year when, God forbid, Georgia slips up to Texas and they split. Like, because both of those teams play. Watch them get there. They split, and either one of those teams beats the ever-living dog shit out of Liberty.
and look, this isn't just – and it's not just an SEC thing. It's like Michigan, Ohio State doesn't mean anything
Let
anymore.
Ohio State slip up on accident and lose to Oregon in a Big Ten title game, and let Ohio State, who wants revenge, I might add, Carter, it's going to be a bloodbath.
And then you're going to see load management as well. You will see it where guys will get rested for.
Expound on that. No one's talked about that. Expound on that.
Yeah. So if I'm Ryan Day and I'm undefeated and I'm going into to play Michigan, and Caleb Downs has like just a minor injury, I'm not going to play him in versus Michigan. That game's going to be overly physical, and I need Caleb Downs to win the whole
day.
He
might play him against Michigan. He's lost the last 3 times.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably not the best example.
Yeah, it's not the best example, but I get what you're trying. Like week 17, week 18 in the NFL. Like if you've clinched, if you're going, what does it matter?
It doesn't mean anything. It's all about the playoff, and it sucks because and part of Blake, and this is, and you said why I articulated everything so beautifully. It's because I think about this stuff all the time.
Me too.
That I don't think people quite understand. We get into sports, whether it's how you feel about how much money these guys are making in any sport or whatever. The bottom line is the most important thing when it comes to sports is the structure of your league. It is more important than the money structure. It's more important than where the teams are located. It's more important than the players themselves. How you actually structure your league is the most important thing. And if you keep restructuring your league just for the sake of producing more money and more revenue, you are going to ruin your sports, right? And Blake, I know you're going to hate this. That's fine. You'll probably never have me as a guest again after what I'm going to say. But you know what happened in England when they tried to do what's happening to college football? The fans revolted. They stopped a super league from forming, and they said, no, fuck this. We're not going to do this. Like, this is the structure of our league is the most important thing that we have. And when they did it, they stopped all of this from happening. It's going to get to a point where you as a fan are going to be like, God, how much more money are they going to bleed out of us? And if no one's going to take a stand because everyone's making so much damn money, but this is what happens when these suits, the ones, and it's not even that many people. It's probably 100 people making this money. The colleges, the chancellors, and the powers that be.
How much money is Greg Sankey getting underneath the table to make these things happen?
Oh man, Greg Sankey, he's probably watching me right now sipping a nice Chardonnay, right? And look, Greg Sankey probably doesn't like me because when I interviewed him at SEC Media Days a long time ago, so every guest at SEC Media Days, I made them do a freestyle rap. I made them.
Oh my God!
Yes, and Greg, I will never forget the look on Greg Sankey's face when I said, "Greg, we every guest," and I didn't want to treat him any different. And he was like, I'm the commissioner of the SEC. I will not partake in this endeavor. And I was like, okay. And it was just awkward silence after that. But, congrats to Greg Sankey. He's going to make a buttload of money.
Do you think that Greg Sankey sits in his office every year for SEC Media Days and goes, did y'all give a credential to the guy that tried to make me rap?
Yeah, one day I will go into this story. I don't think I've ever told you what happened to me.
Not really.
Because SEC Media Days was my favorite thing. I would go every year. The radio station I was with at the time, they would sell a bunch of sponsors and all that stuff. And one year I quit going because something happened. It might have been that. I never really thought of it until now. But you can the best interview though was actually the best freestyle was actually the one. It was the chairman of Chick-fil-A. The Chick-fil-A Bowl had the best freestyle. I did not. I would have. Gary,
they rapping for Jesus, baby.
Dude, Gary Stoken was
rapping for Jesus.
Dude, he brought straight fire. So shout out to you, Gary Stoken.
Dude, I lied. Last thing, I swear to God.
Yeah, let's go.
Brian Thomas Jr. wanted a 4.34. Oh, okay. God bless it. If I got you for one more question. You can talk about Brian Thomas's 4.34.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Carter, I have never in my entire life, in my existence, fought for another LSU player ever more than I'm fighting right now on Twitter for Jane Daniels and this JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, that was so bad. And I actually think JJ McCarthy could be a good pro. I do. But what Mike Tannenbaum did today was that really was disrespectful to Jaden's greatness. It really was
massively disrespectful.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, there's some form of it. To say it's massively disrespectful, even with Drake May.
Yeah, no, I mean,
because the only reason Drake May's there is because he's a prospect. Nothing what he did in college amounted to shit.
Yeah, and I actually. For me, as far as like a pro prospect is concerned, Drake May is actually close to Jaden for me. I do think Drake's going to be a really good pro. But yeah, what Mike Tannenbaum said about JJ McCarthy is also unfair to JJ McCarthy. It's like they're not even remotely in the same stratosphere. But Brian Thomas Jr., Blake, is according to because it's later in the segment, I won't get into this too deep, but there actually is a math statistical analysis that was done. Here we go. And Brian Thomas Jr. is now the most athletic LSU football player of all time, according to Math Bomb relative athletic score. So if you want to learn about that, I explained it all yesterday, and he surpassed DJ Chark. DJ Chark's the number 2 on this metric, and what that score does is it factors in your height and your weight. Obviously, Blake, if you're taller, it's tough to run as fast as BTJ ran. And he is the most athletic LSU football player of all time. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't think he's the most athletic LSU football player I've ever seen, because athletic could be a lot of different things. But according to the RAS model, BTJ is up there. And what's interesting is if you look at the LSU players that are all-time great RAS players, they all exceeded expectation. It's Daniil Hunter, it's DJ Chark, it's Patrick Peterson. They were also in this elite RAS category.
Okay.
So now, and what's funny about it, Blake, and you've seen some of the LSU players that I like and dislike when it comes to the NFL. BTJ is someone that I'm like, I don't feel a gazillion % is going to be a Pro Bowl NFL player. But after this weekend, I do think the metrics changed some things for me. So I'm really excited for BTJ, and I think he's going to land in a good spot.
All I'm going to say is the best athlete is number 7.
Which one?
Matthew.
Yeah.
It's not close.
I'm fine with that. But
if you're going pound v pound, like pound for pound best athlete, what Tyrann Mathieu did in 11, spare me. Dog, he made Carter, he shook dudes so bad on special teams, their grandbabies are going to have cankles. Okay? I mean, come on.
Yeah, and look, that's just what that one model says. I'm just sharing what
I know, but you get what I'm saying.
I agree with you. I would not. I don't even think BTJ would say that, but that just shows you how freakishly athletic what he did this weekend actually was. And look, I'm still worried about him as a pro a little bit. I think the fit is going to be interesting. The only guy, Blake, that I can say without reasonable doubt that's going to be a Pro Bowl Hall of Fame player is Malik Neighbors. Everyone else, they're going to need some dominoes to fall their way, and hopefully.
Yeah,
there you go.
I lied.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chad Jones.
Oh, well, yeah, but he was a two-sport, though. That's a little bit different, though.
Could Tyrann Mathieu hit a 102-mile-an-hour fastball?
No, but yeah.
Okay. Chad Jones for governor.
I would agree. Chad Jones is definitely number 1.
I saw this. I cheated. Conrad was the one that said it, so I cheated.
Yeah, I think they actually asked Tyrann Mathieu that as well, and he said Chad Jones. So I'll go Chad Jones.
Chad was ridiculous. All right, I kept you too long, but we missed you last Monday, buddy. We missed you. I am very excited for Thursday.
Yeah.
I really hope the men get into to the tournament too.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
Poor Jalen Cook. We'll see you next time.
All right, cheers.
All right, that's Carter the Power Bryant. We ran a little long on that segment. Let me finish the show with this just very quickly with Jalen Cook. I did make some phone calls in reference to him. I just think that he's highly frustrated about the situation. I think that there's some other things going on behind the scenes. There, it is what it is. I mean, I hate it for everybody. I hate that these things happen. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But I will just tell you that I don't think everybody's seeing and pointing in the same direction when it comes to him. We'll see you guys all tomorrow. Y'all have a good one, man. Peace.